Basketball.
Parshas Vayeitzei. The word Vayeitzei means to go out, to depart. Page 144, 145. Let's begin. Jacob departed from Beersheba and went towards Haran. Look at it again, read it again, and tell me what's the problem. So I'll tell you what the problem is. You tell me where it's located. The problem is something in this first verse is superfluous. That means it's extra. For those who want to know what the word superfluous means. I mean, there you go. It's a little extra. Something's extra here. And you know, there's no such thing as extra words in the Torah. All right? There's no such thing as extra words. And there's something extra here. Who can tell me what it is? So tell me why. Back up your statement. What's superfluous and why? Pauline, you do know what superfluous is, don't you?
I didn't hear what part.
Okay. There is in the very first verse.
He left and set an intention toward.
What?
Place.
Say it again?
Place.
The place. What's the name of the place?
Haran.
Beersheba. And you say that that's extra. Why do you say that that's extra? Come on, scholars.
I wrote place twice.
What? It says Jacob departed from Beersheba and went towards Haran.
Beersheba means 7 wells.
Yeah, 7 wells, okay.
7 wells.
So why is that extra, Trisha?
Please.
Is it because Avraham and Yitzhak lived there and Shechem is there?
Avraham and Yitzhak were there, that's correct. So why does that make this superfluous? What? The word superfluous means S-U-P-E-R-F-L-U-O-U-S. It means extra.
They're going to...
He encountered the...
So Trisha says that Avram's in Beersheba because Avram has already passed away. But Yitzchak is in Beersheba and Yitzchak's still alive. Okay, very good.
Was he the spiritual leader?
What?
Was he the spiritual leader there?
And he was the spiritual leader there.
And so who's going to be the spiritual leader if he leaves? If he departs?
Who?
That's the, didn't
Who?
he leaves the
Who?
vacuum?
Who's he?
Jacob?
Jacob. In other words, what you're saying is that not only is Yitzchak there, but Jacob is there too. Why does that make that extra?
Because they're 2 spiritual leaders.
Because
There's only one.
no, it's very simple. No great genius here. This is so simple. It's A, B, C, Aleph, Bet, Gimel. It's real simple. If Yaacov is in Beersheba, like you say, why does the Torah have to tell me that he left Beersheba? Tell me he left. I know where he left from. I know where he is. Now, if, for instance, Trisha wanted to take a trip to, let's say, to Portland, Oregon, right? So I wouldn't say Trisha left L.A. to go to Portland because I know Trisha's in L.A. So I would simply say Trisha left for Portland. Do you hear the question? Simple as pie.
Is it because
What?
when he's leaving, it's taking all the glory and...
Right. So if you look ahead into Rashi says it. Does Rashi say it somewhere? Let's take a look at page 144, the bottom right. Jacob departed from Beersheba. For the purpose of this narrative, it would have been sufficient to say he went to Haran. That's enough. I don't need extra words in the Torah. Every word here comes to tell me something. Therefore, the sages infer, they learned from this, that Jacob's departure from Beersheba had a significance of its own. There's a significance and a reason to tell me why Trisha left LA. You understand?
Yes.
A righteous person's departure from a place leaves a void, which of course implies that when a righteous person is there, it's really significant. As long as he lives in the city, he constitutes glory, splendor, and beauty. All 3 words sound almost the same, don't they? Glory, splendor, and beauty. What's the difference between glory, splendor, and beauty? We'll figure that out. And when he departs, the glory, splendor, and the beauty departs with him. So now you understand why there's extra words in the Torah. There's no extra words in the Torah. If it's there, it's to teach you something. Okay. So now what did it teach us? It taught us that Jacob was a spiritual leader, like David said. So therefore, he created a great a presence. We'll call it a presence. And when he left, it could be felt. You know that when the great Rebbe of Chabad passed away in the early 90s, I mean, everyone felt it. I mean, the man that led and revolutionized religious Judaism and brought it to, and worked so hard all his life to struggle to maintain the faith and bring it to so many others and share it. I mean, you feel the void. The person, the loss is immeasurable. It's hard to bear, and you have to believe. You truly have to believe that. You truly have to believe that his followers, the Hasidim, the Shluchim, the people that you know as your rabbis, for instance, if you are involved with the Chabad program, they had to take the loss very personally, and truly, felt the Rebbe was gone. So when Moshe Feinstein passed away, then they say maybe 100,000 people lined the streets of Lower East Side Manhattan. And people were literally weeping. So the mayor of New York City came up to some of the followers of Rav Moshe and said to him, "What are you weeping for? Rabbi Feinstein lived 91 years, a life of productivity, author of hundreds of works and books and learning and teaching and thousands of followers and students, lived a full life. What are you crying for?" And someone explained to the mayor, "You don't understand why we're crying. Because for us, it's a great personal loss. For the Rav Moshe, for the Rebbe, the greatest glories of Gan Eden are awaiting them. But for us, left here bereft, left here orphaned, without our leader, the loss is immeasurable. It's impacting." You have to feel that. We now understand how simple words teach us such incredible lessons. That's why when you look at a passage, look at it carefully and try to figure out something's a little bit off here in order to teach you a deeper message. That's why the Almighty does this. But I have a problem with Rashi. I mean, this is all Rashi's commentary, right? And we all accept it, except me. I'm upset with Rashi. I mean, I don't, God forbid, dishonor Rashi. I mean, I think Rashi is a great commentary and certainly 10,000 times smarter than me. And there's no question about the accuracy of his comment. I just don't understand it. So whenever you have a question, right, it's not the source that you're questioning, it's you that you're questioning. I don't get Rashi. Why don't I get Rashi? I'm going to give you a bomb question. Yeah, that will absolutely make you think twice about Rashi. How can Rashi say that when Jacob left, when Yaacov left, that left glory, splendor, and beauty, because he was the leader and he impacted the town, his father Yitzhak, who's just as great, was still there? So why did all the glory, splendor, had Jacob been the only tzaddik and then Jacob left? I understand the point. Rashi, I got you. But if it says that the glory, everything left, and Yitzhak is still there, I don't get it. But I'm going after Rashi, big time. If this is so, not only do I have a question about Yitzhak, but even though Yitzhak didn't make any travels, so therefore this wouldn't apply to him, but Avraham, the first father, made loads of travels. And those loads of travels Not once is this message mentioned. Not one do we mention when he left. We mentioned every time he went here, he went there, he went there, he went here. Doesn't say where he left from. Doesn't give over the same message. Are we to infer that Avraham and Yitzhak did not carry the same weight as Yaakov? Perhaps that's what Rashi's saying. Let's go deeper now into Rashi. Since I don't understand you, Rashi, illuminate me, teach me. So there was a great Rebbe that I had when I was 13 years old in high school, my 9th grade, who taught the following message. I remember to this very day. You know why I remember this very day? Because I'm only 14. It's only a year ago. And if you believe me, I'll sell you a bridge of Brooklyn. So, what the Rebbe said, Rabbi Zikosban, Zechat Tzadik V'Kodesh L'Vrocha, of holy memory, said the following thought. He said, our fathers are a trilogy, a threesome, right? Like a tripod, right? Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Why do we have three fathers? I mean, George Washington is the father of our country in America. You don't have three, you have one. Why do we have three? So we learn from here, and we may have mentioned it on other occasions, and I'll say it again, is that our three patriarchs bring across a message. And the message is that there are three things that are basic to the success and the survival of our world. And the Mishnah says it in Ethics of Fathers. Make sure you look it up over Shabbat to check if I'm right. Chapter 1, Mishnah 2. Chapter 1, paragraph 2. It says, Al shloisha dvarim ha'olam hameid. On three things, the world stands. Al Torah, Al Avodah, and Al Gemilut Chasadim. Torah, religious service, and loving kindness. Chesed. So this is what the world stands upon. We understand, of course, and we talked about this before, that chesed is fundamental to the operation of our universe. No different than electricity is fundamental to the operation of electric lights, or anything else, any other component of anything that happens, because you have all these components, you make things happen. The fact is that our world chesed is indispensable. You know what indispensable means? It means you can't live without it. You have to have it. You have to have chesed for this world to survive. When the world begins to give to one another, it promotes a healthy society, a society that cares for one another, that can live together and promote a world. If society indulges into thievery and selfishness, and I want for me and forget about you, we have a dangerous world, a world that can collapse in front of us. We see a whole bunch of fires in Malibu. Why are these fires? You know why? Because whenever disaster strikes, the underpinnings, the foundations, the feet of the universe are shaky and wobbly. Maybe there's not enough chesed going on in Malibu, I don't know. Maybe there's not enough chesed going on in Calabasas or wherever it is. Maybe there's not enough chesed going on around with us, and we're responsible for what's going on out there. Which means we got to step up the chesed. But there's no doubt that kindness is a fundamental practice in the universe. But the religious service is also fundamental. The sacrifices that we use in the Beis Hamikdash in the temple in Jerusalem, which today is replaced by our prayer services, is absolutely indispensable for the survival of our world. Because if we don't worship God, if we don't connect with God, then what takes place is that we lose the connection that is our lifeline. Make believe you're a skin diver, and you're going underwater. So you got this a tank of air that you're breathing while you're underwater, but it's connected to some major tank up on the ship where you dived off from. And suppose, chas v'shalom, heaven forbid, somebody cut that. You're dead. If Hashem were to remove His will from us to live, we would die instantaneously. We need to connect. And we need to strengthen the connection so that the world can continue, and so we can continue individually, collectively, to survive. We need God. We need to serve God, connect with God, make a relationship. How do you make a relationship? You daven. You bring a sacrifice. You do the things that are religious service. So that's indispensable. But learning Torah, the third pillar, is also indispensable. You can't have adequate chesed, kindness, or enough religious service if you're not knowledgeable. An ignoramus cannot be a religious person. And it says that in Pirkei Avot as well, in the Ethics of the Fathers. I don't remember chapter and verse. I remember chapter and verse. Try chapter 2 in the Ethics of the Fathers. Towards the end, you might find it. Maybe give me a siddur. I'll find it for you before the end of the day. Give me a siddur there somewhere. Anyway, believe me, you can't be a religious person and be an ignoramus. It's impossible. You have to learn. Now, in our religion, we don't believe that certain people are holier than others. Like the rabbi, he has to learn all day. Us, we don't have to learn. We don't believe that. We believe that everybody has the obligation to learn. God didn't give the Torah to the rabbis. He gave the Torah to all of Jewish people, everybody. We're all in this together. We're all in this to chesed and worship and learn. But learning, you see, is the real essence. Because in learning, you then find out an amazing thing about what we're all about. What we're all about in learning, any student doesn't have it. These guys don't have it. Doesn't have these guys in the Sephardic place. Anyway, so you have to have learning. There's no doubt about it. Now, learning, you see, let's see. Fun. Learning is important because, again, you can't be adequate in your chesed or your religious service without knowing how to do it. But learning is twofold. Learning is, as a professor once told me in university, affective and cognitive. That means first you understand it. You know what it's all about. You have information. You're informed. Secondly, you're inspired, and you see its truth. When I teach a child 5 plus 5 is 10, and I prove it to him by going over, when you add, the teachers teach you, then subtract, and then you'll see its proof. 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. Oh, it works. See, it makes sense. 5 fingers, 5 plus 5 is 10, 10 minus 5, it works. But that doesn't tell you that it's meaningful or valuable to know. Until you take your child to the store and you buy a $5 item, pay a $10 bill and get a $5 bill back. Then all of a sudden, it takes on a truth. It's not enough to know what it is. You have to also be inspired to know that it's true. That's real learning. Information that is not meaningful is pseudo-learning, which is another fancy word for fake. It's a fake learning. It's not real. The real learning is to understand the truth, how it impacts my life. And that's what Torah is all about. How do I learn to impact my life, change my life, inspire me to these truths? That's what learning Torah is all about. Now, we want to establish that our patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaacov, each represented, you're dead meat. Each of them represented one of those 3 attributes. So, ladies and gentlemen, who would like to volunteer to tell me what attribute Avraham had?
Chesed.
Oh, by the way, chesed. No, everybody knows it. Hachnas asorchim, hospitality, bringing people in, giving them food, giving them drink, teaching them all the wonderful things, outreaching to people. Avraham is Mr. Chesed. Who represents Avodah, service? Yitzhak. Why Yitzhak? Not only did Yitzhak bring sacrifices, he was a sacrifice. He was ready to sacrifice his life. He served Hashem. When Rivka was coming back at the tender age of 3 to marry Yitzhak, she saw this man. It says in the Torah, and you can even see it, we can look at it together. She saw him. Take a look at page 121. And Yitzchak went out to supplicate in the field towards evening. Now, I don't know if people do a supplication means to daven. So I mean, what's the davening in the field? When they go to shul, they go to the shul around. Maybe the field is inspiring. You feel Hashem. You can connect with Hashem. The outdoors, perhaps. But he went out there to the field towards evening. Towards evening means not nighttime, but not morning either. We call that mincha. Mincha is such a powerful prayer, more than shacharit and ma'ariv, that no mincha service ever gets unanswered. Do you hear that? That sometimes you pray well, Hashem answers, sometimes you don't pray so well, but mincha is always answered. Why is mincha answered? We'll talk about it in a minute. But he raised his eyes and he saw, and camels were coming. Very nice. Take a look now at Rivka in the next passage. She raised her eyes and saw Yitzchak. She inclined while upon the camel and fell down. And she said to the servant, Eliezer, who made the shidduch, right? He made the connection between the two. Who is that man walking in the field towards us? And the servant said, he is my master. And she took off the veil and covered herself. What are we saying here about this first meeting between the second patriarch and the second matriarch, the second father, the second mother? And what are we saying here, by the way, in terms of the fact that she would even ask about this man? Well, for a starter, we all know, by the way, that the veiling and the bride is a very important part of the wedding ceremony, right? We call that in Yiddish badekin. The word badek in Yiddish means to cover. In most religious weddings, the chassid and the kala, the bride and the groom, don't see each other for 7 days. Which is a good idea because probably most arguments occur during those last 7 days than any other time. So you want to make sure you don't mess things up, especially with the invitations out in the hall reserved. But the truth is that those last 7 days create anticipation, create excitement, create the desire to come to one another. And it is so that when the bride and groom come to the wedding, so at that time, they haven't seen each other for 7 days, and the groom immediately comes to a room where it's just men. And there they write out the documents, the tenoyim, the ketubah, the wedding contract, and so forth. And the men sing a little bit and raise their glasses l'chaim to the chatan, to the groom. Meantime, sit in the corner. In a corner. Those where people come late, there's a corner. Sit behind the mechitza. So then, and the bride comes out, and she sits on this great throne, surrounded by all the women, particularly her mother and mother-in-law, and all the family members, the sisters and bridesmaids and whatever, and all the women come to greet her. Invariably, if you really want to know the truth, there's better food by the girls than there is by the guys. But that's because I snuck in from time to time. But generally speaking, the separation is such so that it creates anticipation of when they will meet each other. And then all of a sudden it's time for the Badekin. And the band starts to play, and the groom and his friends start to dance, and the fathers escort the groom to meet the bride. And he sees her. And of course the first question we ask him is this the one? And he says, yes, because you know that the next week's parsha we're going to learn about a mistake. We don't want mistakes to happen. Actually, no. This week's parsha is the mistake, right? Right. Then he wishes the bride a special blessing, a personal thing between the chassan and the kala. Very, very emotional. And the fathers give a bracha to the kala, and then he takes the veil and he veils her. And in so doing, he demonstrates she belongs to me. She's mine. So when she veiled herself here, Rivka, that was a sense of, biblically speaking, becoming his. But it's also because of the great modesty that she saw in him, and that she saw in herself, that she needed to feel because she saw him. Why was she so modest when she saw him? Because she saw an extremely righteous, holy, pure person. Who is this man walking in the field?
Yes.
Who's muttering to himself and praying? Who is this man who meditates in the field and is saying such in such deep meditation and prayer? Who's Yitzhak? Very deeply into prayer. And so therefore Yitzhak, you understand, is a person who inspires the woman to want to be veiled and to want to sense his awesomeness and greatness in her eyes. And in that way, she demonstrates her modesty before him and endears herself to him. And this is what took place at that particular moment. So, Yitzhak is a very, very holy person. He creates, he gives off a vibe of an aura of holiness. Who can imagine what kind of intensity there was in that prayer at that moment? And we said it's mincha. We said mincha is the greatest davening of all. And it's also, of course, the shortest. The shortest of davenings. Shachar is a big one. Ma'ariv is fair sized. Mincha is a very short prayer. But mincha is never ignored. Because mincha is the hardest prayer to do. It's in the middle of the day. I mean, who's got time in the middle of the day? We're busy, this, that, and that. Who's going to take off 15 minutes in the middle of his day to daven to Hashem? He who does that, and she who does that, has made a powerful connection. That's what connecting with Hashem is all about. We're going to talk more about mincha a little bit later. What I want to talk about now, what I want to talk about now, of course, is Yaacov. Yaacov was the man of Torah. For a starter, when Yaacov was born, it said that he was sitting in the tents. We said Esau, the twins were born. Esau went to the fields, and Yaakov went to the tents.
Yes.
The tents of learning, the tents of Torah. Now, an extensive math that the Rashi will use at the end of this parsha, you will learn that he spent 14 years in learning. To explain that might be a little difficult. I'll try towards the end to try and do that math. But there's no doubt that there was a 14-year gap in the story in which Rashi is confirmed and convinced that he spent those 14 years in learning Torah. Furthermore, Rashi is convinced the intensity of his learning was so powerful that he hardly slept. Rashi proves that from the following passage. Take a look at the next passage. He encountered the place You got to ask 100 questions on that alone. What's encounter? What's place? He encountered the place, spent the night there because the sun had set. He took from the stones of the place which he arranged around his head for a pillow and lay down in that place. And he dreamt, and behold, the ladder was set eastward, earthward, and its top reached heavenward, and behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending upon it. Rashi wants to learn that the reason the angels were going up and down is because there were two sets of angels in the world. There's angels that belong in Israel and angels that belong outside of Israel. That even outside of Israel there was that sense of importance of protection. However, the angels of Israel certainly have a greater holiness. In any event, what Rashi wants to say is that the angels of Israel were going up, and the angels of outside Israel were coming down. And that's why he saw these angels going up and down. Okay, very nice. We'll learn when Yaacov returns to Israel, it's the same thing going on, and it's the idea of the angels of the exile going up, and the angels of Israel coming down to be with Yaakov again. Okay. But obviously this must have been some encounter. I mean, the dream is important enough for the Torah to write it. What's he dreaming? He's dreaming he has an encounter with a place. Anybody want to guess what the place might be? If I told you the place in the world, what would you think? Say it again? Mount Moriah. Har Moriah. The mountain where the Beit HaMikdash, the Temple of Jerusalem, will one day in the future stand. It is also the same place where Avraham and Yitzhak did the Akedah. And Avraham brought Yitzhak to the sacrifice, and that incredibly powerful moment of not only bonding between father and son as they unified in their service to Hashem, but their willingness to sacrifice on both parts. It's a very special place, a place of incredible holiness. Today, we all know that it's tragically not there, and what's remained is the Western Wall. Many want to claim in the Medrash that of all the four walls that were built around the temple, the Beit HaMikdash, the Western Wall has a special holiness that its divine presence of Hashem, the Shekhinah, never left it. For a fact, many wars have been fought in Jerusalem and over Jerusalem. The last one being when I was there in 1967, and bombs were flying all over. And lots of other wars have been fought ever since the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. And for a fact, the Western Wall remained standing, which is really kind of peculiar, kind of strange. But the fact is that this only proves the Medrash's claim that the divine presence has never left, even though the Beit HaMikdash is gone and its holiness is gone and the temple's not there. But a sense of the God's presence that used to be there is still there in that Western Wall. How many people have been to the Western Wall? I go there to Israel, let's say, for my average trip is about 3 weeks to a month. I mean, I go to the Western Wall at least 10, 15, 20 times. What does it mean? I mean, every time you go, of course, I when I was working with the yeshiva in Yerushalayim with my Rebbe, Noach Weinberg, and Esha Torah, so we would go to the Kotel every day to, find new people to come to learn. Everybody's attracted to the Kotel. Who doesn't go to the Kotel if you're visiting Yerushalayim? I mean, you go to New York and don't visit the Statue of Liberty, but it's nutty. Everybody goes to the Kotel, right? But the most hardened people, secular people, have a certain religious resurgence at that Kotel, at that wall. Amazing. That's only a further proof that the divine presence has never left the Western Wall. That's what this place is. Maybe when you walk to the Kotel next time, you'll think of Avraham and Yitzhak being there at the mountain in front of you. Maybe you'll think of Yaacov in his dream at this place. But it's a funny thing about it. Let's take a look again. He encountered the place. What does it mean to encounter? So, one of the reasons, by the way, that we call the place the temple of Mount Moriah in Yerushalayim is because when Avraham and Yitzhak were going to the Akedah, it said that Avraham looked up and he saw the place. So, and we all know that that's Har Moriah. So we can assume that this Har Moriah as well, the place. But what does it mean to encounter? So, I don't know how good of an English translation it is, but the Hebrew word is Vayifka, a Begiah. Now, tragically nowadays that has a bad connotation, right? What's a Begiah? To hit, right? But it really means to encounter. It means to approach. Of course, a Begiah can be a hit to the point where you approach too close to another person. But that's the idea. The idea is to approach Hashem and get as close as you can get. Somehow or another, when Yaacov is davening, that's what he's davening over here. And by the way, what time of the day is he davening? Nighttime. Which means what? Which means that Yitzhak taught us the importance of davening mincha, late afternoon, and Yaakov teaches us the importance of davening Ma'ariv. Okay, that's how we get it. And of course, Avraham is Shacharit in the morning. So now, Yaakov, he encounters this place, he comes close to it, he connects with it, and he's connecting with Hashem and its Kedusha, and he's engrossed in prayer. While Yitzhak is meditating, Yaakov is coming close, approaching. These are all forms of prayer, by the way, and we should adopt them all. By the way, when I talk about Avraham doing shacharit in the morning, one of the things that we learned from that is that Avraham was praying for the people of Sodom. You know, those evil people of Sodom. He tried to save them, and maybe there might be some good people there, because there wasn't. But he prayed anyway. The moment he finished praying, right? So obviously the prayer didn't work because there were evil people there, and there was no good people there to save Sodom. But he tried anyway to pray. The next morning, when Hashem destroyed Sodom, it says that Avraham got up in the morning to go to the place where he was yesterday, and where he was davening yesterday. And there it says he got up in the morning and stood in the place where he was davening, which teaches us that when you're davening, you should stand. So we have three lessons in davening. Avram stands, Yitzchak meditates, the Hebrew word is sicha, and Yaakov, he connects, he approaches, he embraces, so to speak, a real close approach, an embrace. And that's Yaakov, davening Ma'ariv. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Shabbos, Mincha, Ma'ariv, and morning, afternoon, evening, and standing, meditating, and embracing. Now, it says here that he encountered the place, he embraced the place, embraced Hashem, and spent the night there. The idea of spending the night there, it says, because the sun had set. So once again, I tell you that the words, because the sun has set, is superfluous. It is extra. Why is it extra? Go ahead.
Because Hashem wanted Jacob.
Don't tell me the answer. Tell me the question. Why is it superfluous? Why is it extra, these words? Well, of course, if he came there in the night, right, and spent the night there, of course the sun had set. If the sun hadn't set, it wouldn't be night. You got to achieve this sense of looking at the words and understanding the beauty of the words. Of course, the sun set. So what is the Torah telling us? Tell us, Trisha.
he, how do I say that? He made the sun set earlier than it's used to be.
That's correct. That's a new message we learn now. What do we learn from this extra words, the sunset? That Hashem made the sun set earlier. That he spent the night there because Hashem was on his travels. He could have gone further. But Hashem wanted him to stop there because the specialness of the place, the holiness of the place. He wanted him to be there. To be in the same place where Yitzhak was nearly sacrificed. To be there where the Beis HaMikdash would stand. And there he would do his davening and join with his father and grandfather in pioneering the 3 times to daven, starting it off, and that it would be his personal experience of embracing Hashem and connecting. So Hashem, but again, place is valuable. Place is valuable. For Yitzhak, the place at the time of his prayer was in the fields. For Yaacov, the place was the Temple Mount itself, the Beis HaMikdash Yerushalayim. And so Yaakov stops there, encounters the place, spends the night there, because the sun had said Hashem made the sun set so that he should stay, right? And he took from the stones of the place, which he arranged around his head for a pillow, and laid down in that place. Who sees an extra word over there, extra 2 words over there? Who sees an extra 2 words in laid down in that place? Who sees extra words there?
Laid down in that place.
Okay, I know what it says, but wait,
what? That he's laying down in that place.
Well, good, but no. The fact that he spent the night there, you want to equalize with lay down. I guess you could, that's a point. I mean, why say he laid down if in fact he spent the night there? Would you think he done during the night? Of course he laid down.
Yeah.
Okay, that's extra. But the real extra is the words in that place.
Yes.
Because if he encountered the place, spent the night in the place, then certainly he laid down in the very same place. So what's the Torah teaching me here by saying, again, he laid down in that place, to emphasize the place? So Rashi wants to say that the message here is that he laid down in that place. And that's where the word laid down comes important. That this is the first time he spent the night laying down. He hadn't really laid down to sleep at all for the last 14 years of his life. Because during those 14 years, as we said, he spent them in the yeshiva. In the intent of Shem V'Aver. He was learning Torah incredibly, powerfully, without a stop. Oh, he took a nap here, a nap there. A good night's sleep he didn't have for 14 years. This is his first night's sleep. And what a night's sleep that is, with this kind of dream, with the angels up and down. But you understand, the idea of laying down in the place is to suggest that he spent many nights elsewhere in the yeshiva, but he never laid down in the yeshiva. Here it says he spent the night there. Okay, big deal. But he laid down there, like you said. Meaning this is the first time he's laying down, and particularly in that place for the first time in 14 years. Now again, the math with the 14 years we'll do a little bit later. It's a little complicated, and we'll try to see if we can do it. But what's important to remember here is that he's learning Torah. In his learning of Torah, in the yeshiva, it's uninterrupted, without the slightest bit of disturbance. If a person learning Torah for an hour, and he takes off 10 minutes for a break, I mean, after everybody's human, you got to have a break. I need a coffee, I need a tea, I need a cup of water, whatever, right? It takes another 10 minutes to get back into the learning from where you started. I'm in the middle of a great lesson here, a great message, right? And I'm learning it, I'm learning the Rashi, and I'm learning the Gemara. I need a break. It'll cost you. Because if you stay intense and you don't stop, the learning flows that much easier, that much clearer, because you're into it. Take a 10-minute break and you're out of it. And that out of it makes it such that it'll take you another 10 minutes to get back into it. I turn on the ignition of a car. How much power is created, must be created in order to do that? Right? Now, as the car continues to drive and flow through the streets, how much energy is taking now?
Yes.
A whole lot less, because I'm flowing. Stop the car and have to reignite the ignition, another. That's what it takes to get back into learning. And learning isn't easy. Learning is demanding, tough, because you got to be strong in learning. And that's why Yaacov did not sleep for 14 years. Took a nap here, a nap there. A full night's sleep he didn't have. And in that time, we finally, Hashem said, okay, now, lay down over here. Go to sleep. Because in this sleep, he will have the dream that will be able to take him with protection to where he's going. Because he's going out to Chutz La'aretz. He's going out to the exile. And he's going to have to meet his evil uncle Laban, his mother's brother, who is the biggest cheat, liar, thief that ever existed in the world. And you know what he's going to have to be able to do? Not only is he going to have to be able to counteract him and not let himself be swindled,
Stay holy.
but he's going to have to stay holy.
Yes, it's
And not descend to Laban's behavior. Because what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that he'll see Laban, and he'll see Laban succeeding. Cheating here, cheating there, cheating here, cheating there. And I'll see him succeeding. Well. The temptation to succeed is so important. So he'll do a little bit too. Do you understand? That's the danger of involvement with bad people. But he had no choice. He had to go. Well, you know he had to go because he took the brachas from his brother, and his brother's all upset. We didn't talk about it last week. We really should talk about it. We have a chance, maybe, in the clock. But we really should. But in any event, he's got to go because his brother wants to kill him. Now, Esau, his brother, has no problem wanting to kill him. In fact, he kind of likes the idea. Right? And besides, he holds his brother responsible. He took away his bracha, took away his leadership, and to be the bechor, and so forth and so on. So, therefore, he's got to get out of town. And in fact, as he gets out of town, he knows where he's going. He's got to go and find a wife. He doesn't know yet that it's going to be two, but okay, he's got to find a wife. Point is that he's not only leaving someplace, he's also going towards someplace. But the place he's going is the lion's den. He's going to a place of lions and scorpions and snakes, bad people. Going to Vegas. It's going to Hollywood Boulevard. I don't know where it's going. Bad places. But what are you going to do? So you got to prepare yourself.
Yeah.
How do you prepare yourself for an encounter with evil? For a challenge to your faith? For challenges to your beliefs? You do it with learning, with Torah, with study, with the intensity of learning that gives you a truth inside you that can't be shaken for anything in any price, in any event. You'll get cheated 100 times, won't change your faith. You'll see a guy who's cheating successful, won't change your faith. Because you have Torah inside you, you have learning inside you, then nothing can bother you. Can't disturb you. Can handle any challenge, any concern or fear. And so that's why we feel that he spent those 14 years there. And again, I got to do the math to show you how it works. But in any event, Yaakov goes out and goes through the 14 years of learning. He's prepared now, and he's prepared to get to meet Laban. We're going to see that just an added part of the story is that let's skip a little bit over here to the point where he finally arrives. Next page, 146. He picks up his legs, Jacob lifts up his feet and goes towards the land of the east, right? And he looks and behold, the wells in the field, and he sees the flocks, and so forth, 149. he's moved by meeting Laban's daughter, right? He sees Rachel in verse 10. When he sees Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, that's his first cousin, and he comes forward. Verse 11, he kisses Rachel. He's in love with her immediately. He raises his voice and he weeps. In raising his voice and he weeps, Chazal want to say that he wept not just because he was in love with her, but also because he saw that he was not destined.
He saw the future.
And what did he see?
Her death.
And he saw that he wasn't destined to be buried with her.
Yeah.
So, and that again, the sighting of the future is how these people lived. You know, these people lived with prophetic visions and thoughts and ideas, and took them seriously. And then they realized the reality of what they were viewing. I mean, for instance, when Yaacov was dreaming about those angels, believe me, he saw them. You understand? And he actualized them and understood what the message was. So now, in verse 13, verse 12, Yaakov tells Rachel that he's his father's relative, and he's Rivka's son. She runs and tells her father. And it was, verse 13, when Laban heard the news of Yaakov, his sister's son, he ran towards him. He embraced him. He kissed him, took him into the house. Then he, that's Yaakov, recounted to Laban, told Laban the whole story, right? And Laban said to him, nevertheless, you're my flesh and blood, and he stayed with him for a month's time. What's happening over there in the encounter between Yaakov and Laban? Laban greets him, kisses him, welcomes him, embraces him. And then he says, then Yaakov begins to tell him the whole story, all these events. And then Laban says, well, nevertheless, you're my flesh and blood. You can stay. Is there an incongruity here, Jess? What do you say? Is there something funny here? What's funny?
You are who you are, but nevertheless, you can stay.
What does that mean?
It means that I don't accept you, but you can still stay because you're my flesh and blood.
Right, but isn't that in conflict with what he did originally?
Yes, because he kissed him.
He kissed him, embraced him, welcomed him. Come on in. Oh, happy to see you. Welcome, Baruch haba.
He's a double. Two-faced.
Double agent.
Huh?
Two-faced.
Double agent.
Shaka, he's a
Okay, good. But let's understand something else. What's in between these two attitudes? Say it again. So something in in the story that he told soured Laban. So let me tell you the story he told, as taught by the Medrash. The Medrash says is that once Yaakov left town, right, and Esav, he ran for his life. Esav wants to kill him. Esav dispatched his son Eliphaz, who was equally wicked as Yaakov, as Esav, and dispatched him to run and catch Yaakov and kill him. Eliphaz catches up to Yaakov and says to him, I gotta kill you. So, but Yaakov said, well, wait a second, you're my nephew, you're my brother's son. And we have a special relationship, he reminded him. We have spent a lot of time together learning, a lot of time in yeshiva discussing things and teaching you values and important messages and important ideas. Why do you want to kill me? I have no choice, my father commanded, and I must fulfill the mitzvah of honoring my father. So you see, okay, how weird people can be in their religious fervor. Yeah. Picking up one mitzvah at the expense of another. Yeah. Egypt would not take Sarah away from Avraham because she's a married woman. Can't do that. But we'll just do another thing. We'll just kill Avraham, and now we can take her. So adultery is no, but murder, that's okay. Again, you got a little weird here, right? A little strange. Well, I mean, in the medieval years, in the years 1100, 1200, 1500, 1600, Christians all over Europe felt that holy feeling of godliness to force everyone to become Christian. Today they do it a little more politely. I mean, the Christians still do it, they still love converting. By them, the conversion is exciting, If I was by them, boy, I'd be the king. Oh, you convert people? Oh, they love you. I'd be the king. But the truth is that they really believed that it was a holy message from their religion to convert people, even at the point of killing you. And they went out with the sword, and they went through the Crusades, and they were religious people, killing thousands and thousands and thousands of Jews who refused to convert. Again, weird and very, very not a straight thinking understanding of what religious teachings really is. In any event, so Eliphaz says, look, I got no choice, I got to kill you. Father said so. So Yaakov said to him as follows: if you remember, I once taught you a teaching that there are a number of people that are dead even when they're still alive. One of them is there are 4 kinds of people the Talmud teaches who are dead even while they're alive. And one of them is a man who is poor. Poverty is so horrible an affliction that you feel like you're a dead person. You have no connection with people, have no respect for people. People don't treat you they give you a couple of handouts here and then to make you feel terrible. So it's almost death is bad. It's not worth living. So Yaakov said, look, I'm here loaded now with gold and silver and jewelry. And why do I have this? Because my mother gave it to me to impress the new bride. Now, the reason my mother did this is because she remembered when Eliezer came to take her for Rivka, to take Rivka for Yitzhak, right? And here she remembers how Eliezer came to the house with all the gold and the silver and the jewelry and this and that. And she says, look, you'll make a good impression, you'll take all this money, and you'll get the girl to marry you. And so he took all this stuff, and she said, and Eliphaz, and Yaakov told Eliphaz, look, here's an idea. I got all this money stuff, right? All this gold and silver and jewelry. Take it. Just take it from me. The moment you take it from me, I become poor. Everyone knows that a poor man is a dead man. So therefore, you did what your father did. Did your father's bidding. Ha ha! Wonderful. Meantime, he takes all the money. Yaakov comes there, and when Lavan hears that Yaakov's in town, what is Lavan thinking? Lavan's thinking, I remember. Yeah. Your mother was wooed away with that money when your father, your grandfather's servant came and took her away. Wow, if this guy's grandfather's servant came with money, imagine the guy comes himself. Yeah. He must be loaded. Yeah. Oh, so the first thing is greets him, and he sees him, and he looks at him. And he says, what a swell fellow, how do you do? What's going on there? Good to see you there. A little money there somewhere. Maybe something over there. Maybe a little over there. Maybe. Oh, look at here. This guy's got something over there. But he sees nothing. So he embraces the guy, you understand? And he says, come on, there must be something over there.
It's how you lose a watch.
It gives him a kiss. Maybe it's in the teeth. Maybe it's got gold fillings. And he finds nothing. And so he says, well, nevertheless, you're my flesh and blood. I'm stuck with you. You can stay. Yeah. So you get an idea of what trap Yaakov is already in. Yeah. He needs Torah, learning Torah, knowledge, wisdom, scholarship to be able to fight that back. Chesed won't fight it. Yes. It can't survive it. Neither can service Hashem. You can have it all day. It all doesn't. You need the knowledge of what Torah conveys to be able to withstand this guy. Now, in the end, of course, we all know that he made a deal. And he said, I'll work for you for Rachel, your daughter. See, look, he said over here, by the way, it says, take a look at verse 15. He says, in verse 15, Laban has 2 daughters. The older one is Leah. The younger one is Rachel. Leah's eyes are very slanty. Is that what he says? Well, what's the translation there?
Puffy.
Her eyes are tender, he calls them.
Tender eyes.
Yeah, but that's not a fair translation. The real word is, it does say rakot, which means like soft or gentle, but it means that there wasn't good-looking eyes. And it says that Rachel was very beautiful. In other words, the point is that she doesn't look good, and her eyes are what's the problem.
Rabbi, you always put it in such nice terms.
That's what you say. I didn't make it up. I'm just reading the book. Not for me. It says here that Leah, her eyes were whatever. Rachel is beautiful. What does that tell you about Leah's eyes? Anyway, look, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder, whatever. All right? Anyway, so Yaakov loves Rachel. I guess he's infatuated with her looks.
Yeah, he is.
You sure about that?
I'm positive. He doesn't know her. How can he? If that's the case, I'd be in love every 5 minutes with everything I see.
Well, you can't be in love with everything.
Exactly.
The truth is, however, is that Yaakov has a deeper feeling for Rachel because he does sense her as his destiny. And that's why he wept when he saw that he wouldn't be buried with her. But he knew right away that he's marrying this woman, for sure. And he knew he's not marrying Leah, because after all, Leah doesn't have such good eyes. Because I want to say that there's a reason why her eyes weren't so good looking.
She was crying.
She was crying. Why was she crying all the time for? Tell us, Jess. Come on, you know.
Because they
You don't know?
She was sensitive.
You want me to do it? Come on. She
Sensitive.
also had a prophetic vision. And she looked and saw, we're two girls. I'm the oldest, Rachel's the youngest. Now, our father's sister, Rivka, over there in Israel, with Yitzhak, has 2 sons. Esav's the oldest, and Yaakov is the youngest. Most likely, the oldest will marry the oldest, and the youngest will marry the youngest. So Rachel will marry Yaakov, and I'll end up with the bum,
Esau.
with the worst guy in town, Esav. Oh, yeah. And she cried and cried and cried. But you have to appreciate the beauty of this message. That whole drive of a Jewish woman is to get the right husband. A husband that will be a paragon of virtue, a husband of greatness and learning, a husband who's devoted to Hashem, a husband who's filled with all the good qualities of what religiosity is all about. She's going to end up with a murderer, with a gangbanger, with a bum, right? So obviously, she is a very righteous woman too, and very virtuous, right? Okay. So, Yaakov loves Rachel, verse 18, and he worked for her for 7 years. Look what it says at the end of verse 18. Tell me the last 3 words of verse 18. Anybody?
For reach your younger daughter.
He worked for Rachel, the younger daughter. Haven't we already stipulated that? Why does it tell you that? So this has come down through the ages, as in Jewish tradition, as a clear-cut expression of what we call, I respect you, but I suspect you. I'll do a deal with you, but I'm going to cross every T and dot every I on that contract. Well, you know, between us, we're good friends. Listen, all due respect to friendship, I want a deal. I want Rachel. They'll say, well, I got a bunch of Rachels over here and there. I want Rachel, your daughter. Well, I got a couple of daughters, you know. I want Rachel, your younger daughter. I want it spelled out. Barachel bitcha ktano. You see that? So when he says that, he's telling him what he already knows. But he's telling him, I know you got tricks up your sleeve. Your lover. You got tricks up your sleeve. Therefore, I don't trust you. I hate to tell you that. I don't trust you. I want Rachel, not just any Rachel. I want Rachel, your daughter, not just any daughter. Rachel bint Chaktana, your youngest daughter. Have I specified it enough? Do I need to specify it anymore? That's what I want. So Yaakov already suspects Laban is going to pull a fast one on it, right? So what happens? What happens here is that Laban says, I'll give it to her and stay with me and do the work. So look at verse 20. Yaakov worked for Rachel 7 years. And in his eyes, it was like a few days. So you might think, boy, it's so long. I want her so much. And I can't wait. And this and that. It's too long. The answer is, if you really, really want her, and you sense that what you're doing is going to get her, it feels like a few days. You don't feel that's separate at all. You feel that it's just a matter of just relax, take it easy. Don't get bent out of shape or worried. You're all the excitement of the anticipation. It's a few days away. That's all. But it sounds like so far. It's 7 years. What am I gonna do? Relax. You love her? It's like a few days. If you really love someone, then no matter how hard it is, no matter how long it sounds, I'll do it. And it's like nothing. It's like cheesecake. If you really love someone. Well, let's love cheesecake. Anyway, at the end of the day, he works for her and he marries her. So let's take a look at the wedding. The wedding starts in verse 21. Yaakov says, let's go. I'm filled, I did it 7 years. I want to come to my wife. 22. Laban gathers all the people together, makes a big party, big wedding. 250, 350 people, name by name, we're ready to go. Simcha, right? We got everybody there. Rabbi Block's going to be there to dance. We're going to have a great time. Right? Let's go. So, that evening, verse 23, Laban takes Leah and brings her to him. And he comes to her. 25. In the morning, they wake up and, whoa, this is Leah. So folks, what happened during the night?
Switch.
It was very dark.
It
was very dark.
It was very dark. It was very, very dark. Okay, we all know, by the way, there's a very important lesson to learn. That in Jewish tradition, Jewish law posits that intimate relations between a husband and a wife should be in a dark area, not in a lighted area. People should have that sense of respect for one another in that sense. So, okay, it was very dark. But nevertheless, I mean, come on. I mean, imagine that I would come to my wife and I think she's my wife, and then the next morning I go, whoa, how'd you get here? Isn't that a little odd or strange? Wouldn't you say that?
Yes.
So good. See if you're learning Bible stories like it's a little cartoon. So it sounds good. But if you're learning it like scholars, something's wrong here. And you gotta stand on it. This doesn't make sense. What is God teaching me here? Who wants to tell me? Who's got a clue as to why Yaakov did not sense the difference? Well, they both were, they both looked alike.
Twins.
They both were of equal shape and build. They were, I mean, goodness gracious, I mean, how did Yaakov make that mistake?
He knew he was supposed to marry
Unless
her.
they did.
Huh?
He knew he was supposed to marry her too.
Well, you want to say that as a good thing, but I really believe that statement is only accurate after the fact. In other words, because after the fact, he realizes she's Leah, and what would a normal person have done in that situation?
Come back and say, hey, you.
Well, forget him for a second. What would he do with Leah? What would he do with Leah?
Get out.
Get out. Divorce her, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
Yeah.
That's because, what did you
right.
say, Jess? That, in fact, there's a sense of his destiny with her as well, which we'll see in a reason why, and we'll see why he feels that way. But what's important is that we got to figure out how he made this monumental mistake. Why didn't he figure out a night before they consummated?
He didn't know Raquel.
What do you want to say?
Because of the eyes, because it was dark, so he couldn't see your eyes.
Oh, so that's a possibility. We said that, but nevertheless, you
Well,
see.
mistakes run in the family. His own father made a mistake.
Well, we're going to see that too. We're going to see that too. That's very important because his own father also made the mistake of thinking that it was Esau, it was Yaakov. Who's it really? But the truth is, you see, we cannot assume a physical mistake here. We can't assume that Yaakov really felt that Yaakov could not perceive the physical difference between one woman and the other. He couldn't. Now, otherwise he would have stopped. But in reality, if he couldn't perceive that physical difference,
that means
then the question is, the question is, how do you make mistakes like that? If two women look alike, you could make that mistake. How do you make that?
Unless they barely saw each other.
What do you want to say?
Didn't Rachel give way of a sign?
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's touch truth.
Signs.
There is also something as talking to one another.
Do something.
The talking to one another is certain things that two lovers share that no one else in the world knows. Two people are that close to each other, have shared experiences and maybe points and thoughts and values and ideas that just they share themselves with their beloved. And somehow or another, that also didn't seem to bother Yaakov. In other words, she talked she talked to Yaakov just like
Rachel.
she was Rachel. So basically,
Rachel gave her this.
Rachel gave her the signs. So what do we understand here now? Rachel, let's understand the great Rachel, Mama Rachel. Understand when you talk about self-sacrifice in life, no one greater than Rachel in history.
Yes.
Here is the man of her dreams, the man of her life, the man of her destiny. She can't wait to marry him. He worked 7 years for her. Their love only grows every day. She can't wait to come to him, and she finds out she's going to be replaced. So what does she do? She says, look, the one thing that's intolerable in this situation is that my sister should be shamed.
Yes.
Fact of the matter is, I want him. He's mine. And I'm destined for him. And it's right. But not at the expense of my sister's shame. If she goes in there and he's going to say certain things that she won't respond, he'll know and he'll shame her in front of everybody in the whole party, or in the whole community. In order to protect her,
I'll teach her this.
I will teach her what we spoke about, what we shared, and this way she can respond properly and Yaakov will be fooled.
Yes.
Why would she want to do that? Simply for one simple fact. Don't shame anybody. To shame another human being, to hurt another human being, is so disastrous, is so horrible, you'll sacrifice your man, your husband, your life, your future, your destiny, everything. So it's not to hurt another person. Rachel had no idea that he was going to marry her too. As far as Rachel was concerned, I'm giving up my man. That's it, I'm done. What happens to me in my future, I don't know. Maybe I'll never get married. Maybe I will, to the wrong person. Whatever it is, I don't know what my future has. But I know this much. I'm not going to pursue my future at the expense of my sister's shame. And so therefore I give up. She gives him the note. She gives her the stuff, and she teaches her the information, the words, the special words of that lovers share, and in fact, Leah responds properly, and they have relations that night. Chazal want to say, Then, of course, not only was Leah a virgin, but so was Yaakov. In fact, they want to say that Yaakov had never had in his life a seminal emission. He never had. He was a very holy person. Never had thoughts. So Yaakov wakes up in the morning and says, whoa, this is wrong. But wait a second. This is also right. Because if Hashem put me in this situation where I would sleep with this woman, and I would have a seminal emission, is the pshat. That's what Hashem wants. In fact, she is a holy woman, and I never saw her virtue. I never saw those eyes, and how virtuous those eyes were to want to resist to marry the evil Esav, and therefore he says, I will not do this. Of course, I imagine he went back to Rachel and said, hey, what'd you do here? I mean, I thought these were special. I trusted you, right? That's what we made up. The trust you. You said these words, I said those words. We trusted each other. You betrayed that trust. And then Rachel comes up and says, well, you did it to your father. You snuck in there, got that bracha when it should have been Esav, and fooled him as well, and for the ultimate cause, and I felt that it was worth it. So therefore his love for Rachel remains the same. So now he feels the destiny. What's his destiny? I'm going to marry them both. Why am I going to marry them both? Because when my father Yitzhak had originally favored Esav, he favored him because he was innocent and naive and thought Esav was a big tzaddik. But he couldn't know that. He shouldn't have. He didn't. As blind as Yitzhak was, didn't he see that Esav was in the field and Yaakov was in the yeshiva learning? Yes, he did. But what he saw was that maybe Hashem's desire is for there to be a combination. Hashem wants the next two fathers, not one, but two fathers, he wants, and there'll be four. Just like there are now four mothers. There was intention to be four fathers. And those four would be Avraham, Yitzhak, Esav, and Yaakov. And Esav would be the power, the dynamic. Esav would be the energy that fueled the engine of the growth of Yiddishkeit, of Torah and mitzvos in the world. And he would work hand in hand, in tandem with Yaakov, as partners, to move forward the mission of bringing God to the world and bringing Judaism to the world. And so he figured that Esav deserves the bracha, and Esav will then share it with Yaakov. Of course, Esav had his own designs, but then Rivka steps in. Rivka, the mother of the twins, steps in and says, she knows the reality. She knows Esav's the bum. She knows Esav is no good. She knows that Yaakov is the right one, because she comes from people who are no good. So she can tell, when Yitzchak couldn't. So therefore, she goes ahead and tells Yaakov, go in there. When she tells Yaakov to go, now I'm going back to last week's parsha with the bracha, which we never got to last week. When she tells Yaakov to go in there and get that bracha and sneak in. So Yaakov's response is?
But my brother is parrying.
What's his specific response?
What about
Is the response yes or no?
Yes.
No. The response is no. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
No.
So she says, well, my Esav is hairy, I'm smooth, this, that, and that. Many of one excuses, I don't want to do this. Why does he want to do this? Because he is what we call in Yiddish, ehrlich. Ehrlich means he's honest. He's decent. He doesn't do these things. He doesn't know what it means to steal, to cheat, to thieve. He's not that kind of person. He's in yeshiva all day learning. What does he know about the world? He doesn't know about the world. Mom, I'm not doing this. And you know, Mom, if he does uncover me and finds out that I'm merely Yaakov, he's not going to give me a bracha. He's going to give me a curse. She says to him in an act of heroism, if he gives you a curse, don't worry about it. I'll take the curse. Let the curse be on me. You go in and do this. Now, Yaakov's move to do this has to be understood as a major transformation of his personality in life. He then began to realize that since Yitzchak's thought or dream of Esau becoming the dynamic power that would fuel Yaakov in learning, do you understand the point? In other words, Yitzchak himself was not a dynamic. And you need dynamic for leadership if you're going to change the world, if you're going to be a game changer, if you're going to impact the world. See, Yitzchak just wasn't that. So he said, Yaakov looks like me. He's going to need someone more dynamic, like my father, Avraham. He was dynamic. Well, Avraham went out there and changed everybody. And Megayer and Lushin and changed and converted people and inspired people and gave big speeches or whatever. That's what I need. So he figured it'd be a combination of Yaakov and Esau. That's what Yitzchak figured. Because Yaakov's too much like me. He's too simple, and not simple, that's a bad word. He's too innocent, he's too pure, he's too holy. And so Yaakov now realizes what his mother's teaching. What his mother's teaching is Esau will never, ever change from the evil that he's used, that he's done with the talents that God gave him. God gave him talents to be dynamic and powerful. But he's not going to change. He's going to use it for evil all the time. You're going to have to learn to change yourself and become as dynamic and as become as courageous. He goes out in the fields, Esau, and is courageous. He hunts down the animals. Right? Courageous guy. You're going to have to be courageous. Oops, sorry. And not be afraid. Sorry there. And not be afraid to do what has to be done. You can't live your whole life in yeshiva learning. You got to get out there and change the world and impact people. We have to save the bracha. So therefore, he sends out. She sends him in, and he goes and does it. In doing so, the moment he walks in, Yitzchak is suspicious. Yitzchak sends Esau to hunt. He needs food in order to give a bracha. Right, whatever the food is. So, he brings in a lot of food. And the first thing that Yitzchak says the moment he walks in is, "Who are you?" Why would Yitzchak say that? Why would Yitzchak say that? He sent out Esau. He's expecting Esau. What's the problem here? Because he already sensed Yaakov's presence gave off a different aura. He already knew something's up. So we're going to learn a little bit about that if we have some time, which we're running out of. But we'll learn a little bit of that in just a moment. Point is that at the end, Yitzchak realized that Yaakov deserved the bracha, not Esau gave him the bracha, and off he went. Now, Rachel tells Yaakov, look, for the greater good, you deceived your father. For the greater good, I deceived you. So in sensing that, of course, Yaakov also realized her heroism and realized what an incredible human being she is. Mama Rachel's destiny was to die at the age of 33 from childbirth. Her destiny was to have 2 children, while her sister had 6. Her destiny was to be not as prolific with children, and her destiny was, I guess Leah took center stage, or took front place. But Rachel, and in the end, Leah is buried with Yaakov, not Rachel. Rachel's buried alone on the side of the road in Bethlehem. Chazal say, at the time of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, thousands of years later, the fathers and mothers in heaven beseech the Almighty to have mercy upon the Klal Yisrael and bring them home and bring back the Yidden, bring back the Jews to Eretz Yisrael. Avraham spoke up first, and Hashem didn't listen. Sarah spoke up second, and Hashem didn't listen. Then came Yitzchak, then came Rivka, then came Yaakov, then came Leah, and then came Rachel. And Rachel's the one he listened to. You gave of yourself to your sister. I will therefore have mercy upon the children. I will promise you to bring the Jews back in Eretz Israel and have a Mashiach to bring them home and a redemption in your merit.
Yeah. That's right.
A woman lives 33 years in this world and impacts for eternity, for thousands of years later. To this day, the cave of Rachel in Eretz Yisrael, Bethlehem, outside Yerushalayim, is the most sought after place for people to beseech Hashem. A lot of women or childless come, people with ill children come, people, older women and men who have not found their destiny yet, their husband, their wives. Hundreds and thousands of people flock to Kever Rachel to pour out their heart and say, Mama Rachel, intercede to Hashem on my behalf. What a person, what a woman. Unbelievable. So, where?
Doesn't Jeremiah speak of that?
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm
it
saying.
says, Jeremiah says a voice was heard in Ramah.
That's exactly what I'm
Rachel
saying.
weeping for her children.
That's right. Call Hashem Barama, Rachel Mavaka Boneha. So Hashem says over there, Hashem says there, Yirmiyahu says that Hashem responds to Rachel and says, stop crying. Yeah, I'm going to return the people to the land. And the great Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, the Mirror Rosh Yeshiva of blessed memory of last generation in the late 60s and early 70s, made a prayer in which he said, he went to Mama Rachel's kever and he said, Mama Rachel, don't stop crying. We need your tears bad. The Jewish people need you. Don't stop crying. So now, this is how the destiny of the Jewish people unfolds. And of course, Yaakov now realizes that since he is not one father, but he's two wrapped up into one, he's going to marry both women. And both the women and him understand that Yaakov must marry Rachel and Leah. And he marries them both and he loves them both. Now, let's go back to the Torah. Yaakov's Torah is what gives him the power to achieve what he achieved and be able to handle Lavan. In fact, you want to show me he handled Lavan? I'll show you. This is what a Talmud Chacham does. This is what a scholar does without sacrificing one value. Watch what he does. He's upset that he's got this, he comes, look at 28 again. Here's the morning, here's Leah. He goes back to love and says, what'd you do, you stinker? Doesn't say that there, but he means it. I waited for Rachel, and I got and you cheated me. Laban says in page 153, verse 26, we can't do that. Not in our community. So he says, in 27, he says, not 20, 27, he says, complete the week of this one, and we'll give you another one too, and he'll perform for me yet another 7 years. So what do we learn from here? Then what did Yaakov do?
He could have
He worked
7 years.
another 7 years for Rachel.
Yeah.
Except for one little detail. This time, I get the girl first. Then I work the 7 years. This time, you trust me. So what he had to wait? He had to wait 1 week. So it says in the Hebrew the word Shavua. What is Shavua? Sheva. So I would think he was working another 7 years. Not a chance. Fool me once, don't fool me twice. Don't get that. I'm an idiot. You think I'm going to work another 7 years for you? Ha ha ha! I'm marrying her after a week. Why a week? Because every wedding has to have 7 days of celebration. Sheva brachas, 7 blessings at every wedding, at every night of the whole week. So he treats his wife properly, and he gives Leah the proper respect, and rejoices with her at 7 parties with 7 brachas, as befitting a Jewish husband to do with his wife. And now he says, I'm marrying Rachel. You want me to work 7 years? Swell. I'm an honest guy. But I'm going to let you, you're not going to cheat me anymore. No. I'm marrying her now. And then you trust me for the 7 years. And that's what happened. Because Yaakov did remain loyal. Yaakov did remain honest to his teachings. He would not violate his principles. but he won't let himself be cheated either. That's how a scholar responds with the power of Torah, power of learning. So I want to suggest the following. If Avraham is chesed, and Yitzhak is service, and Yaacov is Torah, I want to say that when it comes to a tzaddik being in a town, providing glory, splendor, and beauty, and impacting and changing people, and making his presence known,
He's teaching Torah.
only Torah can do that. Chesed can't. Even though Avraham went from place to place to place to place, and he changed people with his kindness, nevertheless, the impact that Yaakov had, he didn't. Even though Yaakov left town and left Yitzhak there, Yitzhak did not have the same impact than Yaakov did. It's the Torah that makes the difference. So now we want to build a new Jewish community. So what's the first thing we need to build? We need to build a shul.
A shul.
Mikvah. Build a school. The first thing must be a school for children to learn, a yeshiva for people to learn in, and a Beis Yaakov for girls to learn in. That's the first thing the community needs. Then we'll build a shul. Then we'll build a mikvah. Then we'll build organizations of chesed and do all the kindnesses we need to help out the poor and everything. But first, we need to ensure that we are educated, that we are learning, and our children are educated and learning. Because that's the only thing that will keep alive tradition. Fact of the matter is, that in the early days of Los Angeles Jewry, when the city community lived in Boyle Heights in East LA, it was a very, very strong Jewish community before World War II. There's no remnants of it today. Nowhere. The Jews moved out of Boyle Heights, and most of the children who grew up in those days became not religious.
How come?
How come? How come? Because they had shuls, they had mikvahs, they had kosher, they had food, and they had kindness, but they didn't have a shul. And where the kids go, they went to public school. The religious kids went to public school. So now a religious boy goes to public school, and he's going to wear his yarmulke. He'll look silly. He's embarrassed. He doesn't want to look funny. So he takes off his yarmulke, and because how many people? So they asked for Moshe Feinstein: is it permitted for a man to go to work and take off his yarmulke to go to work?
No.
Who said no?
Me.
Who? Who's me?
Me behind the curtain.
A disembodied voice from beyond.
No, it's me.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
It's a voice from heaven. You must be dreaming about angels. The fact that Moshe did permit it. He permitted it because he saw the stress that was placed upon people who would maybe perhaps jeopardize their ability to make a living. See, he said, wake up in the morning, do your prayers, daven, hopefully go to shul, then go off to work, and as you're about to enter the office or the workplace, wherever it is, then you'll remove the yarmulke. At the end of the day, as you walk out the door, put the yarmulke back on. The only permission I give is just for during the work time. Now, of course, nowadays, since everyone knows more about Jews than they did half a century ago, and people know more about religious Jews, and religious Jews are in the news and the magazines, whatever. People know about it, so also Orthodox guys. So, I mean, maybe it's a little bit easier. But in general speaking, it's one has to, realize that you're in a hostile environment, or if not a hostile environment, perhaps maybe a negative environment. But the bottom line is that we have to provide for our children learning. There is nothing in the world that will it is unacceptable for any Jewish child to be in any other school but a Jewish school from kindergarten through 12th grade. After that, the child may go here, may go there, may go to yeshiva, maybe halabai, maybe he goes to college, whatever it is. When I sent my daughter, I sent her to school. She went a year to study after high school, and then she thought to go to college. I said, when you go to college, honey, you put on horse blinders. You know what horse blinders are? You see nothing but go in, do your studies, do your homework, pass your tests, and that's it. You're not to socialize there, not to make friends there. Not boys, not girls, not nothing. You gotta protect the children. Bottom line is, isolation is in fact an extremely valuable and protective step towards guaranteeing your kid's Jewish heritage. Kid grows up and he wants to go and he wants to celebrate the holiday in which he gets into costume and goes around collecting candies. That's well, Purim, not Halloween. So you get the idea of how important his learning is. Yaakov Avinu impacts the town because he's a learned man and he teaches learning. And that's why he makes the difference. And that's why when he leaves, splendor, beauty, and glory leave. Even though Yitzhak is still there, he doesn't make the same impact that Yaakov